Duncan gets spooked. It was the time of year when the little engines were busy clearing their railway of branches, mudslides, rocks, and many other jobs in preparation for the winter season. Peter Sam was especially busy building a cattle creep. This was simply a bridge, but an essential one. It had become necessary to build it because the foresty tractors and sheep regularly covered the rails with thick mud, so every time they travelled on the stretch they had to stop whilst the firemen cleared away the mud. This of course made them very late, a thing that their manager and the Fat Controller would not tolerate. "What's the point of a timetable when you're always late?" the Fat Controller said to them. But when Peter Sam showed the Fat Controller the problem, he immediately commissioned the work. The rail track was on a slope, which made things difficult. Rusty helped Peter Sam. At the top of the hill was a very famous watering place. All the engines used to stop there and refill after a long climb, and visitors often picnicked there as well. It was exceptionally beautiful. One day, after doing some very hard work, Peter Sam's water tank was almost empty. His driver took him and his empty trucks to the watering place, whilst Rusty went off to work down the line. "We may as well have our lunch break here," Peter Sam's driver said to the fireman. Peter Sam felt much better after being refilled with water, and he dozed as his crew had their lunch. But his trucks, however, had other ideas. "Let's break away and have some fun," they said to each other. And they did. Because of Peter Sam's parking position, his back coupling was riding low, so with hardly an effort at all, the first truck was able to break away, quite silently too. "The trucks!" he peeped. The truck sped down the line. "Faster! Faster!" they yelled. But they had forgotten completely what lay ahead. By this point they saw a sign which read, "Slow down, steep bends and ravine ahead." "Oh no!" they cried, and closed their eyes. But without Peter, Sam or Rusty, there was no way to stop, and they knew it. And with that, the trucks plunged into the ravine. A little later, Peter, Sam and his crew arrived and surveyed the wreckage. "Oh, not one useful truck left there they are, and there they'll lay forever," said his driver. "Come on, Peter, Sam, we'll just have to take our medicine and explain to the Fat Controller why we didn't wedge up the trucks. I'm afraid we're in for it, so brace yourself." That evening, the Fat Controller arrived with a message that was short and blunt. "You will work the yards shunting trucks until the visitors start arriving," he said sternly. And that was that. Later that night, when all the engines were in the yards, Duke spoke kindly to Peter Sam. "Don't worry, Peter Sam. Trucks are always falling down ravines. It's been happening ever since I can remember. Oh, and that's an awfully long time ago." Duncan butted in. "So long ago the driver and fireman lived in caves and wore animal skins." All the engines laughed. Duke was the oldest of them all, but he wasn't that old. "You may laugh, but I tell you that those trucks can sometimes come back to haunt you. I've seen many a ghost truck on our routes, especially on the old iron bridge," Duke said seriously, but with a twinkle in his eye. "Pah! Absolute rot!" exclaimed Duncan, who had never believed anything Duke told him. But Duke stood his ground. "It's true," he replied. "Oh, please tell us about it," Skarloey urged, and the others agreed. So Duke began his tale. Well, a long time ago, they had just built the old iron bridge. A great many strange things had happened whilst they built it. The gorge it crosses is deep and mysterious. At night, the mists make strange shapes, and the wind sounds like ghostly voices. You see, at the bottom of the gorge, there is a swamp. A truck was lost in this swamp, never to be seen again. It's the same trucks that haunt the valley, but worse still is the ghost of the little engine that was also lost in the swamp. He was coming back from the quarry with a load of trucks. He was late, but instead of resting, his driver decided to cross the old iron bridge. Now, they hadn't really tested the strength of it, but the driver thought that it must be strong enough to take him and the few trucks he was pulling. So over they went. A workman had carelessly left a piece of rail on the track. Because of the mist, the driver never saw it until too late. The little engine hit the rail, and over the side he went. He and his trucks were lost forever. Luckily, his driver and fireman jumped clear, but the little engine was gone. Not even the horses could find him. Horses were often used to rescue us if we broke down, you know. But sometimes when the moon is full and the mist just rising, that little engine makes his journey across the old iron bridge, only this time without accident. And that's true, Duke concluded. Well, if I was you, Duke, I'd stay in the sheds and never come out. It would do us all a favour, too. Huh, ghosts, viaduct, pah! Stuff and nonsense, Duncan said angrily and puffed away to his shed. The other engines stayed quiet, though. They had all seen strange things in the quarries and mountain trails to know that Duke could be telling the truth. Nothing more was said as they all went to sleep. Next day, as Peter Sam was shunting in the yards, Henry stopped by the water tower. Peter Sam and Henry got on well together, so he told Henry about Duke's story. Henry smiled. "You should always be wary of ghosts," said Henry wisely. Just then, Duncan puffed by. "Woo, woo, woo! Look out, Peter Sam! There's a ghost in your smoke box!" And off he went chortling away to himself. Peter Sam was most upset. "Never mind him, Peter Sam. It's those who doubt that get spooked the most," said Henry, and he puffed away. "We'll fix that, Duncan," said his driver kindly, and he told him his plan. Peter Sam's driver secretly spoke to Duncan's driver, who agreed to play the trick on Duncan. The following day, Duncan had to take coal trucks to the slate mines, and then bring slate trucks back. It was a long haul. His driver decided as part of the plan to go the old route, which meant they had to cross the old iron bridge. When Duncan crossed over it, he smiled. "Haunted bridge? Bah! It's the same as driver's pet rabbit," he scoffed. Well, during the day, the gorge looked wonderful, extremely picturesque and tranquil. But at night, It was something completely different, as Duncan was about to find out. As Duncan worked at the mine, things somehow reminded him of Duke's story, and when dusk was falling, he made it clear to his driver that he was keen to go. "If we don't get back to the sheds before dark, Scott will take my favourite space in the sheds." His driver laughed. "We can't go until we've got a full load of trucks," he said, and winked secretly to the firemen. They could tell Duncan was nervous, so their plan was bound to work. The moon was full in the night sky when they left the mine. The mists at the foot of the old iron bridge was beginning to rise, and the ghostly breezes made their strange sounds. Duncan's driver and fireman knew at this time of year fireflies often gathered on the old iron bridge. They were attracted to a certain type of tree, a branch of which a local miner who was in on the plot with Duncan's driver had placed at the far end of the viaduct. He had also arranged for a couple of horses covered in white sheets to wait in the woods. Duncan bravely whistled as he neared the old iron bridge, and the sound echoed around the gorge. Then he saw at the far end of the old iron bridge, through the swirling mists, a ghostly apparition, which to Duncan looked, for all the world, another engine. The fireflies were doing their job. Halfway across the old iron bridge, Duncan stopped, his face ashen white in fear. It's Duke's ghost! Look!" Both his driver and fireman looked, but the fireflies had vanished. Disturbed by the miner in white overalls, leading the white-sheeted horses. That was enough for Duncan. "It is a ghost! Duke was right! Take me back! Take me back! Please!" Duncan went into full reverse, and he wouldn't stop until he reached the mine. When Duncan reached the safety of his shed, he closed his eyes tightly. His driver and fireman found the whole situation hilarious. "Oh, spooked are you, Duncan?" laughed his driver. "No," wailed Duncan, "I'm asleep." And he refused to open his eyes. But he did, though, just when he thought his driver wasn't looking, just to make sure that he was still there. The next day, Duncan returned to the yards. "No such thing as ghosts, say," chuckled Peter Sam quietly. Duncan didn't say a word. From that day on, he promised never to joke about ghosts again, and decided to believe Duke and his stories from that day on, which made Duke and the other engines very happy indeed.